Imagine waking up on a Tuesday morning, no alarm, no boss, no commute. You check your phone and there's money in your account, not from a salary, from your investments. They paid you while you were sleeping. That's the dream, right? Living off dividends. Your money works, you don't have to. But here's the question nobody answers clearly. How much do you actually need invested to make this work in Malaysia? Today, I'm going to show you the exact numbers. And there's one thing about Malaysia that makes this easier than almost anywhere else in the world. First, the thing most Malaysians don't realize. In Malaysia, dividends from stocks are not taxed. Zero. When a company like Maybank or Tenaga pays you a dividend, you keep every single cent. This is called the single-tier system. In the US, dividends get hit with up to 30% tax. In Australia, they tax it as income. In the UK, anything above a small amount gets taxed. Malaysia, nothing. A 5% dividend yield here means 5% in your pocket. No surprises. Now there is one exception. If you invest in REITs, which are property trusts listed on Bursa, they do have a 10% withholding tax on the distributions, so a REIT paying 6% actually gives you about 5.4% after tax. Still good, just not completely free. Before we talk about how much you need invested, we need to know how much your life actually costs, without a salary. According to Belanjawanku, a single retiree living in the Klang Valley needs about 2,690 ringgit a month. That's about 32,000 ringgit a year. That covers housing, food, transport, healthcare, and basic expenses. Not luxury, just a reasonable life. For a couple, a comfortable lifestyle runs about 4,500 ringgit a month. That's 54,000 ringgit a year. You eat out regularly, take a holiday once or twice a year, no financial stress. And if you want the fuller version, nicer condo, travel more often, no compromises, you're looking at about 7,000 ringgit a month, or 84,000 ringgit a year. Keep those three numbers in mind. They're your targets. Now here's where it gets real. The top Malaysian banks right now are paying about 5 to 6% in dividends. Maybank, about 6%, CIMB, about 6%, RHB, about 6 to 7%, Public Bank, about 4.5 to 5%. These are the boring, reliable stocks that have been paying dividends for decades. Malaysian REITs like Sunway REIT, Pavilion REIT, and IGB REIT are giving about 5 to 7% in distributions. Remember, after the 10% withholding tax, you keep about 4.5 to 6.3%. A solid blend of banks and REITs gets you roughly 5% net yield. That's our working number. So let's run the math. To generate 2,690 ringgit a month from dividends, at 5% yield, you need about 645,000 ringgit invested. To generate 4,500 ringgit a month for a comfortable couple lifestyle, you need about 1,080,000 ringgit, and for the full 7,000 ringgit a month with no compromises, you need about 1,680,000 ringgit, and because those dividends are basically tax-free for most Malaysians, those numbers are your real take-home. No surprises in April, no tax bill. What you get is what you keep. Now you're probably thinking, 645,000 ringgit, 1 million ringgit, how am I supposed to get there? Here's the thing, you don't need to save 645,000 ringgit in cash. You need to invest consistently and let compounding do the work. If you invest 1,000 ringgit a month into a dividend portfolio that gives you about 7 to 8% total return per year, that's dividends plus some growth in the stock price. Here's what happens. After 20 years, you have about 590,000 ringgit. After 25 years, about 950,000 ringgit. Start at 25, and you're there by 50. Can't do 1,000 ringgit a month? Start with 500 ringgit. At the same 7 to 8% return, 500 ringgit a month gets you about 295,000 ringgit in 20 years. That won't cover full retirement on its own, but combined with your EPF, you're in a much stronger position than most Malaysians. And here's something most people forget. EPF is already doing this for you. EPF paid 6.15% dividends in 2025. If you have 200,000 ringgit in your EPF, that's about 12,300 ringgit a year in dividends, already growing inside your account. The problem is, you can't touch it until you're 55 or older. That's why building a separate dividend portfolio outside of EPF matters. EPF is your locked retirement fund. Your dividend portfolio is your accessible income. Together, they cover both sides. So what do you actually invest in? For most Malaysians, the simplest approach is not picking individual stocks at all. A basic dividend portfolio can be just 2 or 3 things. First, the big Malaysian banks, Maybank, CIMB, Public Bank. These have paid dividends consistently for years. They're boring, they're stable, and they give you 5 to 6% yield. They should make up the biggest part of your portfolio. Second, a few REITs for extra yield. Sunway REIT, Pavilion REIT, IGB REIT. These own shopping malls and offices, and they pay out most of their rental income. Yields around 5 to 7% before the 10% tax. Add a small portion of these for extra income. Third, if you're Bumiputera, ASB is hard to beat. ASB paid 5.75% in 2025. Tax-free, guaranteed by the government. If you have access to ASB, max it out before looking at anything else. And that's it. Banks, a few REITs, and ASB if you can. You don't need 20 stocks. You don't need to read charts every day. You just need to buy consistently every month and let the dividends pile up. One more thing that most dividend investors learn quickly. Malaysian stocks usually pay dividends twice a year, an interim dividend around the middle of the year and a final dividend toward the end. REITs usually pay quarterly. If you mix different stocks and REITs, you can build a portfolio where dividends land in your account almost every month, not one big lump sum once a year, but a steady flow, like a paycheck, except no commute, no boss, and no alarm clock. So let me bring it all together. To live off dividends in Malaysia as a single person, you need between 645,000 ringgit and 1,680,000 ringgit invested, depending on your lifestyle. Get there by investing consistently into banks, REITs, and letting compounding do the heavy lifting. The zero dividend tax isn't a small detail. Over 20 or 30 years, it's worth hundreds of thousands of ringgit that stays in your pocket. Instead of going to the government, most Malaysians have never stopped to think about how powerful that actually is. Now you have. If this helped you think differently about building passive income in Malaysia, share it with someone who needs to hear this. That's your Ringgit Explained. See you in the next one.